All right. So, we talked about what gets between you and your peace. That's our axiom. What we always bring back to this group. But I'm going to tweak it a little bit tonight because it kind of came to me today about what we have been doing and if there needs to be a slight adjustment to the language. And I was just talking to Jordy, and it just seems like everybody right now is kind of going through, not everybody here, but I meant the whole race is kind of going through a midlife crisis. George talked about that in 2012, that the race itself, the so-called apocalypse as it was supposed to happen in 2012. The planet was supposed to flip over, there came the tidal wave, hope you were sitting was going to be safe. It did not happen that way, but George intuited, as well as a bunch of other people, that it was a psychological Armageddon, that it would hit the 2 and 3 chakras, not the first chakra. Well, thankfully, we're all still here talking about it, not in the astral plane somewhere. But it might have happened, and that's why we have the other planes, like the astral, the mental, the causal, and there are bodies there doing the exact same thing we're doing here. There is no death. There is only you and what we have projected and our dreamers, as to say, that we're our little dream that we've projected into the world. And we got distracted with it, right? We fell asleep, and all of a sudden the dream just kept on going. We were supposed to say, okay, enough of the dream, and return to our you. Right? That's the basic game. Whether you study Christianity, whether you study Hinduism, whether you study Taoism, Buddhism, Mayanism, whatever ism you follow. Ironically, even in science, they talk about starting something, keeping it going, and stopping it. Isn't that what we're doing? I mean, even in astrophysics, or they talk about, the different planes, that particles can exist in 2 different frequencies, right? And then we have all the way down to the subatomic, right? Where down there, it starts acting a lot like, almost like we're going to a gem shop. We're almost got the kind of like psychic realm down there, and even these people who study the subatomic plane almost start talking like they're mystics. Okay? So that's going to be my setup for what we're talking about tonight, is that Jordy brought up a point about eliminating distractions. That's why we have a quiet place to sit when we meditate. But isn't it interesting when we sit to meditate? Sometimes it sounds like someone's talking, right? Well, that's in here, right? That distraction is in there. It's not your neighbor mowing the lawn at that point, hopefully. But at that point, it's like yourself mowing the lawn in there. Like, I really need to get something done. I don't really have time to meditate. Right? I'm going to make this a short meditation because I got to call, Shelly on the other line and tell her what's going on. Right? And that's your biggest distraction is right there. We can minimize exterior distractions. We can get a quiet room. We can go to an ashram. We can go to a mountaintop. We can go to a meditation retreat, right? So we are trying to deal with minimizing distractions. But have we eliminated all distractions? No. I was talking to Jordy earlier, and distractions are a little like going to the beach to make a sandcastle. But the problem is you're not close enough to the water. And you're trying to make this sandcastle out of the sand without any water. How easy is that? It's hard. I mean, it just keeps, every time you push it up, it just slides back in. That's our brain. Every time we try to, calm it down, it just keeps on chattering. But how then, we don't eliminate distractions, but how do we minimize them? How do we minimize distractions? Well, diet, right? If we eat something that's, going to make us hyperactive, like a whole bowl of sugar, well, that's a distraction. Or if we have an enormous steak dinner or something with all the trimmings, that was good. Oh, It's a distraction, right? That's why, we try to clean the blood. We try to maybe follow Eat Right for your blood type, or if you have a special regimen for your eating, you're just trying to get the body to, get still, get more still. So it's not a distraction. Same with the soul, right? We're, if we're angry all the time, no, that's distracting, right? So we got our videotapes. We have all that stuff. Whatever we need. We trace past lives. That's where they're stored, right? So that's minimizing distractions. Are we eliminating them? No, it's impossible. I'm sure everybody here has heard about the Akashic record, right? Most people have heard that term. Well, it basically includes everything, all the way from the greatest experience to the worst experience. It's all there. So you can't get rid of that, but we can mitigate our route through the Akashic record and then eventually let go of it. We were talking about karma. Well, that's where it all is. All the karma is in the Akashic record, and we have just chosen. We all know what, the record players are, right? And they're all making a vogue return. But we're like the little stylist, on the record. We have to lift it up, try not to scratch the record. We go find the track we want to be on. So realistically, that's why we're minimizing distractions. So we go to, we don't want to listen to like Master of Puppets by Metallica when we're trying to, meditate, or Welcome to the Jungle, or some hip hop record or something, right? We'll go find the gentle, whether it's sitar music, or listen to some Bach or Mozart, or maybe some Brian Eno, some ambient music if we're trying to calm, right? So that's what we're trying to do, minimize. And also, moving to the mental plane and seeing what's going on there. A lot of times with that, we kind of forget to look there. But it's like our daily lives. If we're minimizing distractions, is there somebody or something in your life that constantly catches your attention? It's like, it's like a barking dog. The neighborhood, the famous neighborhood barking dogs. We all have those, except maybe Vajra. She probably doesn't have a neighborhood barking dog. She probably has, screaming monkeys or something, most probably, and probably, tree frogs that they could probably rattle your teeth. So, there are noises, right? So she probably has maybe little earbuds or whatever she puts in, or has trained her brain to, it's just the ambient noise, whatever it is. But she's so used to it by now, it'd be like you and I. If all of us decided to go visit Vajra, we'd be like, whoa! It's like, a symphonic cacophony, an orchestra of sounds. And all of us have experienced that. East Tennessee is like that. I've never heard so many birds in my life chirping at once out here. It is like a cacophony, symphonic, blast of bird sounds out here when they all get reared up. And it's like, we wake up in the morning, Jules and I are like, geez, birdies, what's going on out there? It's like, so that's just what's going on. But look, as we all know, even up in the ashram, there are other people that we have to deal with, right? We deal with these people. I got students, we got, co-workers, family members, children, like Penelope there, and they can be distracting. Well, that's just, that's the world, right? We all agreed, unfortunately, unconsciously, to come play this game called the human existence. And it's what it is. It's a game. It is. It's got rules. And George has said it many times. The masters of all said it. I don't care what faith you have said it. That there are rules here, right? Okay, so when we're really young, it's like a dictatorship, right? With parents. Well, it should be anyways. If it's not, then, the parents are missing the beat. That really it should be It's this way, it's my way or the highway. That's what all parents should have been like when we were children. If they were not, they are doing us a disservice. That's the same as religion. Religion is just basically the totalitarian system that's adopted from our parents to, help raise our consciousness from self-consciousness to super-consciousness, or moving from Virgil to Beatrice, right? And that's what we're doing. Vajra is that's why she meditates, why she does yoga. She's trying to train herself to not operate, at the lower frequencies, to not have red or orange or yellow as a dominant astral frequency. We want the upper ones. We would like to have green, blue, purple, white. Wouldn't that be nice? Everybody had a white aura. We walked around and everybody's just blazing white auras. Well, I guess we're not following human consciousness at that point. Right? We're not getting as distracted. And then as we move up, we got to be careful about cosmic consciousness. And then we got Christ consciousness, right? And then we have the God, the Father consciousness, or whatever. And then we have what is kind of called Tathagata, or in Christianity, the Godhead. It's relatively close. So those are still, except for Tathagata to a degree, is a consciousness. And what's that? The content of my awareness. So there is another step, which George used to always say at that point is, and do we have to be operating from the Godhead consciousness in order to wake up? No. It helps. I mean, from there it'd just be a, it's a, oh, right, oh, this isn't me, you'd be done. Now, what happens now is you have to see where your brain is and whether it accepts that or not. It's not going to. It's not going to accept that. It's going to fight that statement unless you have quieted your brain down, which is why we meditate, which is why we do yoga, qigong, tai chi, contemplate. Contemplation is wonderful because you're training your brain how to think. You're saying, okay, give me a peaceful sea, no sea breeze. So you're training it. And that's what we're doing here, training the brain to agree, in a sense, to trust us, to go, it's okay. I don't need you right now. That's really what meditation is. It's like trust. And we could substitute it if the brain needs it. Trust our spirit. We could use that right now. That's okay. We can use that. If you follow some sort of religious protocol, use that term. Because you're training your brain by using that term, that objective term, to calm it down. So it doesn't think it's being annihilated. So we need that term. We could use it, you call it Buddha, if that's a better term. We can call it Tao. As long as your self goes, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I get that it's not, that it's greater than I am. Right? Aren't you greater than yourself? Well, you have to be. And that's the trust that yourself needs. So when it's in stinking thinking, like the alcoholics call it, when they're blaming that she, he, or it did it to me, then we go, no. Move up, move into love, do some yoga, whatever it is, to get yourself to not get into that behavior. That's why it's called dysfunctional, right? So, from that point, that's where faith comes in. Because if your self is blaming, oh, she just said that. It's like, oh, well, what happened? Well, some sort of activity. If you can come from that frequency and just perceive, oh, okay, I like to call it my dog. So that's, some people say, they say their name in this third person, whatever, but I say my dog. So, because it's like, we're like training a dog. So I've always used, it's like when I'm talking about myself, I call it my dog. So I'll even call it doggy, things like that regarding that. So the self knows when we're talking about that we're talking about it. And right, it is the object. It's not the subject, right? You are the subject. Because you can't talk about yourself without making it an object, right? That's why when we call it a spirit or God or Buddha, we have immediately objectified it to have characteristics, right? So at this point, we don't do that. But we can use that for the self to communicate to it and calm it down. When we've gotten it rattled, it's like right now, are you holding your breath? You shouldn't be holding your breath. It should be easy. And if you're holding your breath, your brain is trying to figure out what we're talking about here. And that's the problem. Is it's trying to figure it out, and it's never going to figure it out. You may have a, aha, woo, oh, I got that. How long does that last, though, unfortunately, right? The self goes, whoa! But does self really get it? No. And then we, fortunately, then try to, what was I doing? I had my chair this way, and the light was going this way, and, God, how do I repeat that, right? No, we'll get back into meditating. Oh, I guess that was still the content of awareness, which it can't be me. However, something did change, right? Something changed. Can we really put our finger on it? No, but it's like you went up the ladder one more time. That you is waking up. When you have those moments, it's like, okay, once I was asleep, now I'm not, right? Remember last night, we all were sleeping unless you're, practicing some, non-sleep meditation. We were sleeping, dreaming, and then you woke up. That's like what those illuminating experiences are. You woke up. And eventually, you will go, oh, there's no out there. Out there. You guys know what that means. Out there, right? What you're seeing, what you're experiencing, that's out there. That made this thing hasn't projected. Not you. You can't project, but it created something that can. And that's when we go, oh, okay. There is no out there that the self hasn't projected. Well, then it's not me. And guess what? Game's over. And then you can choose at that point whether to play the game or not again. But now you can say, I know it's just a game. That there are rules. That other people, no matter what you tell them, if they're not on the path working with the same words and frequency you are, they might as well be talking, gibberish to them. And you have to kind of ease them into it or get around like-minded people like we are. And they can communicate. And then you can kind of ease them onto the path. But the greatest part about it, you'll know the content of awareness is not you. And it'll be a shield for that you will never fall asleep again. Right? Because you know the trick. George used to bring up magicians all the time, right? He'd be sitting there in the audience, and I'm sure all of us have seen magic, and some of you may understand what's behind the trick, right? But does it ruin the trick? No. He used to bring up basketball. And I'm only pulling these up because you've all heard the things he said, and you all trusted him to a degree, right? Okay. Well, let's let that go, the degree, and say we fully trust what he said was not a lie when it came to the path. It was true. That when he said that our existence here as a self in experiential karma was like playing basketball. Right? That there were rules that were needed to be followed. And then there would be fouls if they weren't. Well, that's the same here, right? Now remember, the vulgar, right? We all like to think that everybody's a good person, right? Well, I got to be a positive person. I don't want to think badly or negatively about anybody, right? But is that accurate? Buddha talked about unconditional charity. In the Diamond Sutra, he's very clear about what unconditional charity is. And I'm going to say a silly example. It's like you are walking along, and I'm not saying that this is how you should live it, but this is basically the essence of the Diamond Sutra. In this essence, in this sense. You're walking along, and you see a homeless person, and you see a guy in a three-piece suit talking on the phone, and he's obviously like a stockbroker. And you have $5 in your pocket. Yourself will justify that the homeless person needs that $5, right? And if you put on CNN or whatever, that the homeless people need their $5, right? Okay. So you see that, and you're reaching in your pocket to get $5. But if you are coming from the Tathagata, or even spirit, whatever term you want, coming from that higher consciousness, and you intuit, no, the stockbroker needs the $5. That's called unconditional charity. You are not conditioned. You're not coming from the conditioned frequency that you think the homeless person deserves that $5. But it came to me, oh no, give it to the stockbroker. Hey, it's coming to me that you need the $5. Maybe startled, and he goes, oh yeah, I needed that. Hopefully, you followed your intuition. Remember that? The term in there, it's kind of important. Followed your intuition. Followed your inspiration. And didn't follow yourself at that point. Well, you might. But did you follow your authority? Or did you give in to the self, feeling pity or sorry for the homeless person? Now, it's a silly example. But I find that it's very poignant because we are so conditioned. There's that word. We are so conditioned. I'm going to say it a third time. We are so conditioned to feel sorry for someone, to feel pity, that we think we are supposed to help them. But if we're following that conditioned mindset, then we're not following our authority. We're following, like C.S. Lewis said, the screw tape. Following the liar. And man, does the liar sometimes have good intentions. And right there was one of those sayings out there that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And it's just a reminder, a warning to basically not follow the self. And number one reason is this, not for some evil reason. I'm not even going to say that. The self doesn't have all the information, right? It doesn't have it all. It's coming from the 3rd floor of the building. And the answer to the problem is up at the 7th. And so then you go up there and go, oh, goodness gracious. Now I see why the stockbroker needed the $5. Now, it's again, the model breaks down at that point, but I'm trying to instill a point about following our authority versus the self. Because at that point, wouldn't it be just wonderful? Wouldn't it just be delightful? Just to sit back and go, okay. But you don't even have to think. Everything at that point, the crooked road is made straight. Ironically, the crooked road wasn't made straight. You just all of a sudden go, oh, I know where to go. And that we trust that. And that is known in Buddhism as pure faith. And it's a great term because pure faith disregards what the self says. And that's direct from the Diamond Sutra again. That a bodhisattva, a real bodhisattva, disregards that which came from its senses. Smell, seeing, hearing, thinking, whatever it is, it disregards that. It does not see that as its authority. That is the essence of the Diamond Sutra. Well, isn't that same in Christianity? Hinduism, right? Hinduism, we're supposed to follow Brahma. Whatever Brahma says. Well, when people say, well, Brahma's in the scripture. Well, okay, we'll follow that. And we say, well, where's God? God's in the Bible. Well, follow that. Well, I don't disagree. I disagree with some of that. Well, what are you going to say to that? I'm going to tell you this right now. This path is not for the weak of heart. Which is why we only have, how many people here? 1, 2, 3, 4 people that we can see. We got plenty without bodies showing up, which I thank thee for showing up. But they themselves, whether they're here to just send us light, illuminate us, clear our doubts, we can be thankful for that. They're holding us up right now. But that's why there's not a lot of takers for this, waking up. Even though everybody, no matter what you follow, will eventually have to, basically from this model, there are different ways of saying it, we'll have to wake up from the dream. Everybody. Now, if you don't believe me, that's not my problem. I'm going to tell you this right now. The most poignant thing I ever experienced from George, actually it wasn't from George, was listening to the recordings. And I sat there one day, I was just over here, just working at home, just doing claims, just whatever, paying the bills, as it's called. That's what it looked like, right? Apparently. And I was listening to George, and he sat there and he was being all snarky, how he could be. He would just be sitting there like the Zen master he was, the Kung Fu master that he was, sitting there at his, looking at everybody going, look, whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth. The truth exists whether you believe it. The truth exists whether you see it. And it doesn't care that you don't see it, really, in the end. It doesn't. It's unconditional. It's unconditioned. It can't care. It has no brain to decide whether or not to care or not. And that, for me, was like, wow. That was it. It doesn't matter what my brain thinks about what my you is. That you will never know you. Meaning the self will never know you. That the self was the content of my awareness, and I went, oh. So it was that simple for me. That the truth exists no matter what. No matter what I think about it, whether I see it, no matter what. Whether I believe it. So that's what the truth is. The truth. I'm not talking about relative truths. We know what we're talking about. All of us, no matter what faith you are following, all know what that is. Whether it's the Dharma, whatever term. Knowing, that's another way of coming from it. When you know something, do you always know why you know it? No, because you could be reading something like a book or something, and you've read it 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, whoa, I finally got what the person's talking about. You just got it. It's like getting a joke. Oh, that's how that is. Knowing. That's closer to you than thinking or trying or striving. coming from knowing is a good model for you. That you. If you have to strive for something, you have to figure it out. Well, is that knowing? Socrates, all of us learned folk here, we've all heard that name, right? You know, right? Socrates, some Greek guy, right? He talked about a learning method, right? Which was the absolutely reverse of what Aristotle was talking about and everybody else, which was you had to learn it. No, he's like, no, the truth is there. You just have to, you know, it's like a dirty chalkboard. You just got to wipe it clean. And you go, oh, there it is. Whoa. That tells us where he was at. And that wasn't popular at all, right? It was like they told him he had to die, you know. And he's like, oh, okay. Wow. It didn't even seem to bother him. That tells us where Socrates was, right? By far greater than any of the school districts out there or anybody out there. Go to any university. Are they going by the knowing principle? That we just need to wipe clean the dirty mind to show the light of knowing. And any teachers out there, you know, maybe you can implement that a little bit with people. You know, or at least you come from that and realize the person in front of you just needs their brain wiped cleaned a little. You know, the way they were thinking. Hey, you know, it's easier to think it like this. So when you look at someone not understanding something, you understand that that's just ignorance. That's the brain just making up a story and just like distracted. Man, look at that. And isn't that true? Once they go, oh, right? It's like, I didn't even think of it like that, right? It's like they just know it all of a sudden. Did they really learn it? Or they just finally parted the waters and, whoa! Oh, I got it. All right? I mean, come on. You guys know this stuff. I'm just here just rapping on the door saying, hey, you know, don't forget this stuff. That's all. So we're not trying to eliminate distractions, right? Because that's part of the projection. We're trying to minimize them. We want to move to a consciousness where those distractions do not exist. It's like we're trying to train our brain to become a monastery. Train our brain to become a meditation room. Train our brain to set a trap for God, right? That was the original term for prayer. So prayer at that time was not about supplication. It was about meditation. So prayer just got misconstrued and turned into, oh, I'm missing all this stuff. And is it usually in prayer when we're being pious? Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, got it. Oh, I know it. I know what to do now. And then we thank God. Well, of course, the self needs to thank its higher power. I mean, if you have a problem, and if you just immediately switch to gratitude, where'd the problem go? Like, it's like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, something easy, which is tough for some people, the death of a pet or something like that. We won't go to humans at this point, but, the death of a pet. But instead of mourning the death of the pet, celebrate it. Appreciate, thank God. Thank your higher power for the time it gave you with that pet or that loved one. Instead of mourning them, celebrate them. Remember them and be thankful, grateful for that experience. It's like Vajra said, she went to the jungle, but she was grateful for the experience. Grateful to her creator, the higher power that illuminated her. Basically, confirming that whatever she was doing seemed like the right way to go. And all of us, on a daily basis, need to remember to thank our creator, which is not the self, right? I mean, we may go, hey, I figured this thing out. But did you really? Or was it just a game? An activity that you played? Like playing basketball. You go, oh, I made a great shot. But it's still just a game. So if you figured something out, well, guess what? In the self-plane, right? Well, then does there, meaning once you've figured out something, do now the rest of your life completely be perfect at that point? Well, here comes another problem, right? It's like, oh, I solved that one. Oh, here comes another one, right? So then we have to move up and move to a higher consciousness where there are no problems. That you know the answer. Or at least you're like Caine from Kung Fu, right? Who, when he had a problem, he just sat down and got still. Turned his mind into a meditation room. Opened his his brain, and went, oh, I know what to do. I know what to do. And when you know something, doesn't it give you a kind of a conviction, a faith, excuse me, that you know it's going to work out okay? I can sure tell you the opposite. It's not very fun, right? When you don't know how to do something. Is that a great feeling? I mean, do you want to go, I'm gonna pick a real juicy emotion and go, I'm going to go into not knowing. Self doesn't like that one, does it? Because it feels disconnected. Well, and I'm going to finish that statement. Feels disconnected from its source. Which for this case, we'll say disconnected from knowing. Right? Oh, that's not good. So it's better. I mean, here's a trick. Think about something that you already know during a time when you think you found something you don't know. It's like love. It's like, okay, there's a problem in front of me, and I could say, do I know that Julie loves me? Oh yeah. Oh, that feels great. Oh, okay, I got it. Right? So you're just training your brain. Get in that. No, wrong frequency. You're in wanting. We don't want that, right? Desires, we don't want that, right? That's the root of all evil, right? That doesn't sound good. And realistically, it's the root of all, that doesn't feel good. Isn't evil really just a translation for that doesn't feel good? Right? Stay away from that. It's like fire, whoa, it's great for warming, but don't stick your finger in there. Whoa, that's evil. So that's not good. So realistically, we want to get in, train the brain. To get into that frequency, okay, no, not that frequency. Let's get into knowing. I know Julie loves me. Oh, okay, I know that. I know my mother loves this body over here, this Brian, right? Oh, yeah, I know she does. Okay. Get in that knowing, right? And then all of a sudden the problem, boom, it's like it's gone. You just know how to do it. Can we call it a problem at that point? Isn't that the Beatrice frequency where there are no problems? Because you know. If you know, then how can there be a problem? So we just try to teach our doggy. That's what I call it. I call this my doggy because it's like, you pet it, walk it, water it, take care of it, And it's like, no. Don't think like that. No. Oh. And then at that point, is it that complicated to get into those higher frequencies? Not for us here, which should not be. We just forget. We get distracted, right? So at that point, if we try to eliminate distractions, basically that's what the Buddhists used to call fake or false nirvana. That they could replicate a flat mind. They could, through breathing techniques, they could force the mind to flatline. And they were mistaking that with nirvana. Which is why, in many ways, the Zen Buddhists came up with the counting breath technique, or just paying attention to the breath, or the Zen koans, which were designed to the brain. Whoa, shut off for a second. And then for a split second there, you saw you. They called it mind, but that's you. Or they called the essence of mind. But that's still where they're pointing. It's just different language, bad translations. So there are techniques, using breath techniques to flat line the brain, but not in the turning off the brain technique. The brain is still running. That has to be. Or you'd go, oh. So you have to watch out for trying to flatline the brain in that way, forcing it to shut off in that technique. Excuse me. Let me get a cough drop. Okay, water. The voice mechanism. No, we just want to minimize distractions. We don't want to force it to be flat. Because eventually you begin to realize it's false. You do. Let's not forget about peace. When we go to the peace frequency, are there any problems? No. So when we started these sessions, we talked about what gets in between you and your peace. And that's distractions. So we want to move to a frequency where they're not there. Well, it seems like my voice is not having any fun right now, so let's bring it back to the carpet here. And while my lozenge is working for my vocal cords, does anybody have any questions or comments that we're going to shut off the camera for right now?